You know what? I'm looking over there at these power bars. Can we talk about those?
Sure. So, yeah, folks are pretty fired up about, quick grab-and-go food. These things are really popular. Some of them are not terrible. Like, you just kind of have to do a little perusing on the, like this one has 30 grams of carbs, and it's going to be really quick release. And so stuff like this, like what I find, like when I was talking about the hyperpalatability of some of the baked goods, you don't typically just eat one of these. And particularly for people who have insulin-resistant problems, they have one of these and they want to have another, and then they want something else. So these things are not, I wish, the shakes, the bars, all this stuff, I wish that they worked better, because I get a ton of traffic on my website and I could sell these things and make a ton of money. But I've found consistently that when people do shakes, when they do bars and stuff like that, they just don't do well with regards to body composition and kind of staying on plan. These things seem to be almost like the gateway drug to get them back into like the
rebound,
cake, the ice cream, the ice cream, all that rebound stuff. So these things I'm just not super excited about. And like this one has no carbs in it, but inevitably folks add fruit and they blend it up. And what happens with these, when you're doing a shake or like a smoothie, you get a huge amount of calories down the hatch in no time flat, because you're just drinking this stuff. So
and then you're still hungry.
You
just had something to drink, now you want to eat.
More hungry than what you started off with. So I just make this wacky recommendation that folks eat real food, which I don't really consider this stuff to be in the real food category. I mean, they're really yummy, but not super healthy, not real good for the body composition. And is this one of the they do this gig, the 100-calorie, packs, because they're trying to get people to do portion control, which portion control works when you have people effectively in like a metabolic ward, when you feed them exactly all, the only amount that they're going to get and they have nowhere else to go. It works. But in free-living humans,
it doesn't work,
portion
does it?
control does not work, particularly when we've got these hyper-palatable foods like this. So, and so here we've got the 100-calorie packs. Studies have clearly indicated people just eat 1,000 calories of 100
calories.
Box.
They eat the whole box.
Yeah,
that would be me.
So again, and it's interesting. This is all kind of American dietetics associated. They anoint this stuff. They're all geeked out on portion control, and it almost seems like a racket in a way, because it just guarantees failure. Like, we know for a fact that these approaches do not work, that we've got to get people cooking for themselves, eating real food, and using these very sparingly, if at all. And some people, they just literally, they can't do it. There are certain people who were alcoholics at one time and can have a drink occasionally. There are other people that cannot have it at all. And this is kind of the story with this also.
Well, I noticed that in looking at this 100-calorie pack, it has 19 grams of carbohydrates per bar. And so what would you say if somebody was insulin resistant or diabetic, about how many grams of carbohydrates should they be consuming a day? I know it varies.
It varies. If the person is overtly type 2 diabetic, then in my opinion, and I think you guys have seen this well supported with the blood work, really kind of the lower on the carbs, the better. And you can eat a mountain of these low carbohydrate density fruits and vegetables and only get maybe 50 or 75 grams of carbs a day. And that's eating like literally a couple of pounds of vegetables throughout the day, whereas 2 or 3 of these would be equivalent in carbohydrate content to that mountain of vegetables and even a little bit of fruit. So like this 20 grams of carbs in here, 20 grams, that's like a medium to large apple. And you could plow through this in no time flat. An apple, you've actually got to chew it, and there's pectin in it, which slows the release of the carbohydrates and everything, and it's actually satisfying. Whereas this thing, it's that hyperpalatability again. Stefan Guillenet up at the University of Washington, he comes out of the lab that discovered leptin, and leptin and ghrelin and appetite regulation and body fat regulation and whatnot. And he's just really brought a lot of light to bear on the palatability of foods. And so even adding salt to foods, adding sugar to foods, adding salt and sugar to foods, that changes the palatability. So if we have some dry roasted almonds that are plain, folks will eat them and then they will stop. We throw some salt on there and maybe a little bit of smoked seasoning, and they will eat more. And so, you know, it's not that those things are inherently bad, but we just need to be aware that when we change the palatability of foods, when we do all of this kind of food chemistry magic, it
engineering.
makes them this engineering. And again, you know, some food chemist has put their kids through school figuring this stuff out. I guess that's great, but you know, for the rest of us, we've got some really significant societal costs that are coming out of all this, and we're being sold on this idea that all of these foods are good, and they're really not. It's very problematic.